Are Epiphones getting harder to find here in Europe? And in our mic check section, I'm going to talk about where you should really spend your studio dollars. All that coming up next on Upstairs to the Right Music News. Hey everybody, welcome back to Upstairs to the Right Music and the news for this week. Before we get started, just a quick reminder, we are in a subscription drive here trying to get 1,000 subscribers so we can do a lot of cool stuff like live streams and a lot of giveaways too that I'd like to start, get going on this. I think that would be a fun thing to do. I can't do it without your help. For everybody who has subscribed, I want to say thank you so much. Each and every one of you is really a blessing to this channel, and I'm glad this community is growing every week. Now on to the news. Okay, in the news story today, we're going to talk about how Epiphones are getting to be really difficult to find here in Europe, new ones in particular. So I'm going to use an analogy of what's going on in the used car market over in Europe. On the other side of Europe, I'm saying over here in Europe, I'm in Europe. Sometimes I forget. It's actually kind of funny where I forget where I'm at. But over in the UK, in the used market, they're really seeing a huge increase in their sales. Of course, this is a corresponding increase in the value of cars. For example, an Aston Martin Affinity was going for $80,000 US dollars just 3 months ago. Now that same car at this lot has an asking price of $116,000 US dollars. Now, sure, there's inflation out there, but it's not going that fast. It's a slow-moving train wreck. No, this is caused by a shortage of semiconductors at the Aston Martin factory. They can't produce new cars. Since they can't produce new cars, buyers are going into the used market, and it's driving up prices there. Now, why do I talk about that? Well, we saw this earlier this year, where the guitar producers were having a hard time producing new guitars. The distributors were having a really difficult time finding new guitars, and as a result of that, the used guitar market shot up. It's one of the reasons why, like I said, I sold my collection at that time. I thought it was a good market, and it was. And it's because of shortages. So I thought to myself the other day, well, let me see how these shortages are affecting the biggest retailer here, the Guitar Center, the Sweetwater of Europe, Thomann. And I was absolutely floored by what I saw when I went to go look up Epiphones. I'll give you an example. If you want to get an Epiphone Flying V, it's going to take 28 to 36 weeks to get from your order. Jared James Gold Glory is going to take 2 months. I like that guitar. It's a beauty. The brand new Joe Bonamassa Lazarus guitars, you've got a 15 to 20 week wait on those at the current moment. The granddaddy of all these, if that wasn't bad enough, is the Alex Leifson signature model Epiphone. You've got a 19 to 25 week wait on that. You're talking about April. And just about everything else, you're looking at an average of 5 weeks, and they have very little in stock. I'm talking about 85%, 80%, maybe 85% of their Epiphones are not in stock, and you're looking at wait times of average about 5 weeks all the way out here to 25 weeks. So again, I bring this up this week. I won't bring this subject up again. But I just wanted to bring you an example of real life of what I've been talking about, these shortages. If there are some guitars or some gear that you're thinking about getting, again, I would suggest that you take the time to maybe put in the order for that now. I just saw on the Thomann website that my TE80 is finally in stock, so I expect that to show up at my doorstep anytime soon here. And as I said, we talked about this. I guesstimated it was going to be over a month and a half plus, and that's exactly what it's turning out to be. So take that in consideration. Let's move on to our next news story. In today's mic check, we're going to talk about what I think is one of the key pieces of equipment that you need to invest the most money in your studio rig, your recording rig, your live rig, it's where you really should be investing your money at first. It should be your biggest investment, and it should represent over 70% of your investment if you're just getting started out. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of money to be pouring into something, but the item that I'm talking about is your amplifier, and also in the recording essence are your studio monitors. But let's first start with your amp. You guys know this amp. This is my Laney Club 12 that I have modified. We've changed the caps on this. All of the tubes that you see here are all vintage tubes, and the speaker is a vintage Celestion Greenback, 25 watt, 16 ohm, and the 55 hertz. Because those 55 hertz have a really nice tone. I like those over the 75s. Now, why am I talking about this? Why am I bringing this up? You can duplicate the tone of this amp, of course, with IRs, and I do that. I have Greenback IRs in my studio. However, really, for playing out loud, for recording, and for gigging, ain't nothing like the real thing, like the old song goes. And so I invested the most money into this amp, at the time, and this was a piece that was going to stay. This was not an investment. This was not like some of those guitars that I bought that I knew I was going to move on anyway. No, this was something for my studio. And as you know, I'm very thrifty when it comes to that. I think that's one of the things that I preach on this channel. You guys know about being thrifty, being smart. But I saw that as being a significant investment. It's because this is your output. This is going to determine what people hear. If you have an inexpensive guitar, if you have a great amp, you're golden. If you got expensive $5,000 custom shop Gibson guitar and you're playing it through a crappy amp, you're not golden. No, it's your outputs. Those are the things that I think in the studio are really the most important, are your amp. And in my case, I only need one. If you got a large studio, of course, you're going to need multiple ones for studio gear into those amps, because again, that's the money. That's the tone coming out. That's the end of that signal chain. That's the most important part. But for the viewers of this channel, home enthusiasts, semi-professional, and some pros that are watching, it really comes down to finding one good amp that works and you can get all the tones you want out of it. I've got this so that it cleans up really well. These amps aren't known for cleaning up, but a little bit of work on the caps, straighten that issue out. I can get all kinds of tones out of this that I want. It's where I put a lot of money into, and it is really what I suggest to you, that you invest your money in again, you're talking about your rig that you're using for recording or for playing live or just playing at home. But there are another set of outputs that if you're in the home recording that I think that you should really invest in, and let's go take a look at those. So here I am in my recording studio room, and we're going to talk about these monitors here, these Sony SMP, is that what it is? Yeah, I'm sorry, SMS. Ooh, it's not hard to remember. The SMS series is one that came out, about 15, 20 years ago, and I bought them new at that time. So I've been using these same two Sony monitors for about 20 years. Prior to that, I was using Yamaha NS10s. So why have I not had such a great variety of monitors in my recording studios, my home, as well as when I'm going off and working in large studios, when I bring my monitors with me? Why is that? It's because a very good engineer, an excellent engineer a couple of years ago told me, Brad Gilderman, told me that the best thing to do is to find a pair of monitors that your ears get attuned to over the course of time and stick with them. You know how the mixes that come out of those monitors are going to translate to the final mix and to the final consumer product. regardless of the room that you're in. So I know a lot of the mixing engineers that I grew up with when I was doing it myself. We travel around with our own, monitors, and in a lot of cases our own external processing gear as well. So yeah, this is an area that I think is best for you to invest the most money that you can into it, but also it's an investment of time as well. So just as we discussed with amplifiers, there is an investment in learning what it is, the tone that you're seeking, and then the investment of buying the best one that you can. Because again, you can't take a cheap guitar and make it sound great with a cheap amp. No, but you can take that same cheap guitar, you can make it sound great with a great amp, or at least decent. Going here into the studio room with these monitors, it's not just an investment of money. Of course, I really recommend that you buy the best ones that you can. I like these. At the time, these were these were cutting edge 15, 20 years ago at a reasonable price, and they're just the ones that I stuck with. They work for me. So not a great financial investment there, but certainly 2 decades of listening to these, monitoring through them, doing records and TV commercials and whatever else I've got myself into over that period of time has shown that I know these monitors, I can take them anywhere, they translate well. So my best advice to you is to put the best money that you can into the best monitors that you can, but be prepared to really invest your time into learning those monitors and how they sound and how that sound translates to your final mixes. Actually, these days, I actually mix with headphones. These are Sony MDR. These are comparable to these Sony monitors. So there's a sonic similarity between these headphones and these monitors that again, it's because I've learned it over the years that how my mixes are going to translate down the line. So an additional investment of maybe a good pair of studio headphones might be something that you'd want to do as well. Again, I haven't talked about processors, I haven't talked about your computer or your software, I haven't talked about any of that stuff. I started out with what I thought is the most important area of investing first, and that is your monitoring system, whether it's your amp or your studio monitors. Well, that's it for today. I hope that this little discussion is interesting to you. I hope that I presented it in a coherent manner. Sometimes I wonder, but I think it's okay. I'd like to hear your thoughts on these two subjects, the shortage of Epiphones here in Europe, as well as what I'm talking about, where you should first really invest your true money in your gig rig or your studio rig or whatever you're up to. Anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to watch today. I appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.